I'm Jason. This is Kim and Mishka, and this is ARGO. She's a 1991 Granger sailing cat that we renovated so we could live aboard. We're learning as we go, making memories and a few mistakes, and squeezing the most out of every day. Thanks for coming along for the ride.
Well, it's so nice to be back on the ocean after all of this time. We took ourselves on a 21-hour sail from Brisbane up to the bottom end of Garry. So it was really lovely to stop in at Garry's Anchorage, which is a calm and really well protected part and the perfect place to end up and get a good night's sleep and recalibrate before deciding that it's time to move back up towards Kingfisher and get this adventure started.
So we're just approaching Sheridan Flats, and even though it's approaching high tide, we could go the normal route through the shallowest section of Sheridan Flats, the way the lateral markers direct you to go, but we're going to take a different route that we have taken once before, and we've watched somebody else come through that route before without any problems. You can see on the chart, I'll zoom out a bit, we're at the bottom here. I'm going to go, the way it wants you to go is following those markers up there, and that's the very shallow bit at the top, just there. Instead, we're going to follow this line up through here. Those many marks that I put on there are when I was following another boat on AIS and just dropping waypoints and before I tested it myself. So it always feels a bit uncomfortable to go off the designated path, but like I say, we have done it before, and I want to do it again for those times when the tide is a bit lower. There is more water through this route than there is through the regulated or suggested route using the lateral markers. So hopefully we'll keep a note of what the minimum water depth is as we go over. So we've just checked our records, and last time we came through it was the lowest we saw was 2.4 metres under our keel, which is plenty, and we were an hour before high tide then, and it was a 2.6 metre high tide then. Today is a 3 metre high tide and we are pretty much on the high tide, so you would expect to see plenty of water under the keels.
So we've had a little change of heart. We're just going to pull up stumps here at South White Cliffs or nearby. The wind is going to get quite whippy tonight, so this is more protected, and so instead we're going, so instead we're just going to go in this sort of general vicinity, with Kingfisher is much further around the corner, but this will be better protected, so that's the plan.
Stanley.
Finally, the sun is out. It's been raining the last couple of days, so looking forward to some solar getting in. But there are some big dark clouds above us, so it might not be for long. But, you know, it wouldn't be Easter in Queensland without a spot of rain. So business as usual.
So welcome to Sailing ARGO sewing class. A little while back I put up the mainsail and I didn't fully unzip the sail bag, which was a big mistake because as the sail went up on the electric winch, the back of the sail caught the zip and obviously just tore through that. Luckily it only damaged the sail bag and not the sail itself, but now the zipper on the sail bag has had its stitching torn for about, I don't know, 12 to 18 inches long. So I need to sew that back up again. And it was quite a big job to get this sail bag off. That's another story. I decided to try and hand stitch it. So I've sent away and I've got one of these speed stitching, I think it's a yawl, to do it by hand. And I've just done a bit of a practice run on a piece of Sunbrella here and I think I've got it down pat. I've also got, I sent away on Amazon and I've got a selection of needles for just general hand sewing and a palm protector that wraps around your palm. It's like a thimble for your palm so you can push the needles through sails and canvas and leather and things like that without pushing the needle through your hand. There's a bobbin of thread inside the handle here that I've wound onto the bobbin, and that fits into the handle. The thread comes out of the handle, wraps around this little button to keep some tension on it, and then it goes up through the screw-on piece at the front here and up through the end of the needle. And this acts just like a sewing machine where you punch through the thread. Let's actually do it. So the first stitch, you go through your job, pull your thread through, and then we pull it out, and then the size of your stitch is up to you, but you select the size of the stitch in a straight line preferably, push through again, and when you pull back this time you'll see it creates a loop there like that. I hope you can pick this up okay, but then you take the end of the underside and thread it through that loop and pull it through and then pull the needle back, and this is exactly what a sewing machine does, somewhat faster, and that secures your first thread or your first stitch. And you just got to maintain the tightness of your stitch by pulling on the back and the front to make sure it's secure, and then off you go again on your next one. Choose your next point there. This won't be straight, but let's just go there all the way through, and again pulling back creates the loop, and then on the underside through that loop and then pull back like that, and away you go, and repeat 700 times. Whoever called it a speed stitcher is clearly a practical joker. Well, in the true spirit of boating trips, it's just a few days in, and I think it's the first breakage we've had. Got a toilet issue, which is really annoying. I was really looking forward to just doing a couple of other things for myself today and not doing much, but again, that's boats. So I just replaced the pump that fills the toilet the other week, and that's still working fine, but it won't evacuate the bowl and the macerator doesn't come on. It's an electric pump, an electric toilet rather. It's a Tecmar brand. I'm not sure how old it is. I can't seem to find a specific model number. It's electric. It's very quiet. It's been excellent for the 2 years that we've had it. So it operates on a two-phase switch, I suppose, where that's the switch there. You press the first button on this side to fill the bowl, and then the second button you press when you've finished, and that evacuates the bowl. It fills, you press the first button and it fills up, but then when you press the second button it puts a little bit more water in, but then nothing happens. It should then evacuate out and clear the bowl, but it's not doing that. It's just putting 2 lots of water into the bowl. So I'm thinking that the macerator is jammed somehow. There appears to be power to it. I can hear a click when it's supposed to operate, but it doesn't. So what I'm going to do is disconnect it, get access to the macerator, which is sort of in the bottom of the bowl here. See if I can turn it by hand to free it up, reinstall it and see if it will work. So looking in from behind, so if I can disconnect all of these hose clamps, that's the macerator down in there, and at least get better access to see what I might be looking at. That might be a start. Go boating, they said. I've taken the toilet apart. Got it here in the cockpit. I've had the crappy hoses out, cleaned them all out. I've got the macerator out, and it turned fairly freely, so it doesn't appear to be anything jammed in it. So I've done nothing significant. There's no blockages. There was the expected amount of crud on the inside of the hoses, which just while I was there I cleaned out, but I didn't identify any real problem that would explain why it's not working. I did put power on it while it was apart, but and it did turn briefly, but what I had it connected to was a lower voltage socket than what should be used on that macerator, so it sort of turned and then it stopped. I don't want to push that point. I'm just going to reinstall it back to where it should be and see if it goes, and if it doesn't, I'm going to sell the boat and go home. So very disappointingly, I just put the toilet back in and reconnected it, turned the power back on, and it filled with water but didn't flush, which is exactly the same as what was happening before. However, this is what I should have done first. I've just pulled out the wiring for it, and I have noticed one of these, the positive on this wire, was slightly out. I've just pushed that back in all the way, and I'm really hopeful that that is going to be the problem. What an easy fix if that's it, but we'll test it again now. I've just got to reach around here, which is good. That's sort of the first half of it. And now the second button. This is where the problem is at the end of this. Yeah! Yeah. However, stupidly, if I'd done this first, I wouldn't have had to take the whole toilet out, go through all that crud, which I'm now covered in with sweat. And there's the final flush for a loose wire. And I guess the reason I didn't do that was because I could hear it click when it was supposed to be expelling from the bowl, and I thought that was a blockage in the macerator. So maybe a good learning there. Trace the power first before taking things apart. So the boat job for today is rewiring my 12-volt freezer. If you've seen previous episodes, you may have seen that the freezer was sitting there, and it's a big freezer, and it impedes the thoroughfare walking through the saloon there. It was taking up a lot of space, so what I've done, stupidly when I bought it, I didn't measure the doorways down here to see if it would fit. I just thought it was a good size to live with, and I would make it fit. So once I got it onto the boat, I realised it would not fit through any of the doorways like this. You can see it in there at the moment. But what I had to do to get it in was to cut out a piece from the doorway here, pretty much down to, close to that line, all the way down, to make it wide enough to slip it back in, and then put biscuits into the panel that I cut out and re-epoxy that back in. So it's as strong now as it was before, and with the felt on the walls you don't even notice that that's happened. You've got there was already a seam there, and I just had to cut an extra bit there, which I'm very happy to do because it gets it out of the way. It's in here, which is great. However, when I plugged it into the 12-volt outlet, which was already here, I found that the wire coming all the way across the saloon to the breaker panel on the other side was too small. There's too much voltage drop coming across here to this appliance in order to run the compressor on the freezer, and I was getting warning signs from the freezer saying that essentially the voltage was too low. So what I did then was it's an AC, you can plug it into an AC outlet as well, so I did that and plugged it into the AC outlet, which obviously then required the inverter to be on all of the time, which is not ideal because it not only does it take some power to run the inverter itself, but in the process of converting DC power to AC power, it's using a little bit more than it otherwise would if it was running on 12 volt. So that, on these cloudy days that we're getting at the moment, it's around Easter time at the moment, it's always rainy, cloudy for days on end. Even with our excessively large lithium bank, it's not enough to regenerate the power overnight. During the day, and you drain it significantly overnight. That's been a recent revelation to me, which is probably very obvious to people who live on boats and know boats much more than I do, but clearly regeneration capacity is more important than the size of your battery bank. We've got 1,000 amp hours of lithium, which is great, but if you don't have the capacity to regenerate that sufficiently, then it's no good. You're going to run out, you go backwards. So in summertime we do have sufficient. I've got about 1,500 watts of solar. It's actually 1,320, but on a good day it'll put in, I've seen it go as high as 1,570, so that's good. But still, on this time of year, it's very difficult to regenerate sufficiently to get it back to 100%. So, long story, still a long story, but what I need to do is to run a heavier cable from the breaker panel on the other side of the saloon over to this side, which goes underneath the saloon floor, and plug that in to the freezer so that I can use 12 volt and I can turn the inverter off when we're not using it, particularly overnight where it draws quite a lot. So I've run a temporary cable above the floor from the breaker panel on the other side there, across the floor over to the unit in here, plug that in, and it runs really well. So now I've got to get that underneath the floor, and I also have to in addition to the breaker panel, I'll put an inline fuse in close to this appliance as well, just to make sure it saves the appliance from any potential damage. So that's the job to do. The most difficult part of that is going to be getting that cable underneath the floor across to the other side. I'm hoping that there's still some pull cables under the floor that we can just tie the cable onto and pull it through. But I know there's a lot of lines, other cables going through the floor, which will make it pretty squishy under there and might take a bit of effort to pull through. So we'll see how we go.
Meantime, while he's messing around with cables, I'm going to make a cottage cheese frittata. Our oven's not great, so I'm going to cook it in. It's terrible. I'm going to put it in a pan and then stick it under the grill to get the toastiness on the top. But it'll make a good lunch for us for the next few days, and it's using up some cottage cheese that I rotten for breakfasts. And then we've got a bit of spinach to go in as well. So anyway, show you at the end when it's all done. Ta-da!
So we've got our cable here, and it's going in through the breaker panel here, amongst that mess, and it'll start here and go right through to the other side. So this is the first section here that I've fed it through, that Kim's going to help me pull through while I feed it. This is the pull-through line, which is left permanently under the floor, thankfully. I'll tie that onto that line so it gets pulled through, and I'm also going to tie on a spare line so I can pull this line back once it goes through, so I can leave that there for anything in the future we decide to run through the floor again. Now we will join this one, which is the temporary pull through, with that one, which is the permanent pull through, tie them together and pull it back so that that can remain under the floor for next time. Alright, I'm never going to make an electrician, I know that, but we can now pull out I've turned the freezer off. That's the 240, the AC plug. Here is our cable coming from the other side, all joined up. I've got a fuse, inline fuse there, which comes up through that little bit in the bed. I'll tuck that all away in a minute. But hopefully, when we plug that into the 12 volt bizzo, and we turn him on, it works. That'll go back to its steady temperature of -15 in a few minutes, I'm sure. So now I can turn that inverter off and save a bit more power.
How long did it take?
Oh, just a minute. This was my only real job for today, and it's now, I think, about after lunch. So half a day of just mucking around with fiddly little things, and so often I don't have, like, the heat shrink that I had wasn't quite the right size, so I'm trying to improvise with make it fit, and then it wouldn't fit, so I've had to use electrical tape, stuff like that. That just, it's hard to have all of the right jobs all the right tools for all of the right jobs all of the time. But I guess you've just got to do the best you can with what you've got, which is what we've done today. That shouldn't be a problem until it is.
We'll just buy some more shrink.
Well, no, I can buy more heat shrink, but now that it's all joined up, I would have to cut it all apart to get the heat shrink over the top, then rejoin it, then put the heat shrink in place and then shrink it. I'm not doing that.